Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 36 of the Canberra Football Show, round 13 review. Michael, how's it going today?
Yeah, I'm good, Matt, but I can imagine you're a lot happier.
Look, let's just get this out of the way. Football culture is coming Rome. That's all I've got to say. Coming Rome. Very well done. Let's just get a little review out of the way while we're here.
Yeah, why not?
So essentially, England were way better in the first half. Italy couldn't even bloody string a ball together. But England were in that predicament where they're like, geez, what do we do when we're up in the first, second minute or whatever? And they just sort of sat back, tried to absorb the pressure. And Italy eventually finally got in their ways. Chiesa was amazing. Donnarumma made some fantastic saves. And also that Italy goal, geez, Pickford, what an initial save that was. I know Bonucci still snuck it in, but what an initial save that was from Pickford. And yeah, look, Italy proved that they were one of the best teams over the tournament, but England deserved to be there. So credit to England. Some of their youngsters played really well also. No sympathy for Rashford though with that run up. I said the same about Zaza when he did a similar run up in the 2016 penalty shootout.
Yeah,
you do a run up, like you deserve to miss the shot. But I felt bad for the younger players like Saka and all that. 19-year-old and took the last penalty. So I felt bad for some of the players like that missed.
From what I sort of saw anyway, from about the 60th minute onwards, because I got up at about 6:20. I was contemplating getting up, but, like England, Italy, not really either country I'd pay too much sort of attention to sort of, make me want to get up at 5 a.m. But, from what I watched from about the 60th minute onwards, Italy were pretty much in control, and Verratti was just running the midfield as well. What a player he is. Just his ability to get the ball and just move it so quickly and get all of his teammates involved. I thought they, it kind of played into their hands a little bit, given the sort of tactical approach England took. Being 1-0 up, they just thought would sit back, soak up the pressure, and hit on the counter, which I can get. So I mean, I can understand to a certain extent, because they're defending a lead and you're in a final. You don't want to take too many chances either.
And finals usually like that anyway.
Yeah, very cagey. You'll have teams set up like that, especially after scoring a goal as well, which I can understand. But at the same time, look, I would have liked them to be a little bit more aggressive and go for the second goal. But credit to Italy and Mancini, most importantly. He's turned that team right around from when Italy didn't even qualify for the World Cup. And he's gone 34 games now unbeaten with this Italian side and got them winning the European Championship. So credit to that team.
I'm glad Mancini came before the match. He came out and said that 34 games or 33 games doesn't matter unless we win a title. And that's the exact mentality you need to have. But he made the right substitutions. He didn't bring on, in the 50th minute or whatever it was, he didn't bring on their most technical players. He brought on players that he knew would be able to be aggressive and would push England back. And it worked. He brought on Cristante, he brought on Berardi, and they had better players on the bench, but he brought on the players that he thought would change the game. And he did make them a lot more aggressive and help them going forward. And more importantly, forget about 2018. 2018 is probably the kick up the butt Italy needed to change their philosophy. But to me, this sort of finally sort of buries that 2012 Euro final embarrassment, 4-0 against Spain. For me, that's the big one. And I'm sure any Italian fan that was, not 4 years old like me and watching Euro 2000 and that heartbreak. So it's finally good to see Italy actually win a Euros in my lifetime when I can actually enjoy it anyway.
Congratulations on that, Matt.
Yeah, it's great to see. So Forza Italia, and but England deserve to be there as well. So there's no reason why England can't go on and do something.
They've got the blueprint now.
The two best teams were in the final.
Yeah, they've got a good blueprint going forward. I mean, obviously the disappointment in losing the way that they did, and I didn't really agree with some of the substitutions Southgate made either. I mean, bringing Sancho and Rashford on with
just the penalties,
virtually a minute left, they didn't get a touch of the ball. They didn't really get a feel of the game, and then to expect them to just go straight into the shootout with their first kicks of the game and produce, yeah, bit of a tough situation to put those lads in. And like you mentioned before, Saka as well, the 19-year-old,
Yep,
the weight of the world on his shoulders. And if he misses, they lose the shootout. So, but it's only going to hold that team in good stead. I think they're hopefully, going forward, we'll start seeing them consistently more.
100%. And looking forward to the next World Cup. So that's it for the Euros now. Let's get straight into NPL1, shall we? Michael, what's our first matchup of the weekend? Remember, every match was at the exact same time, 3 p.m. yesterday.
We had Gungahlin United up against Belconnen United, Matt. So it was a 1-1 draw there. Burgard scoring a 37th minute opener before that was cancelled out by Tuggeranong. And I'll get into that a little bit more. It was a tight affair at AIS. Obviously resulted in the share of the spoils between the two teams. I think Belconnen will be a little disappointed they couldn't, hold on and get themselves the 3 points. I think they're sort of really striving to get back in the winner's circle and put some consistent performances together over the last few weeks. It would have, put them level. If they had got the win against Gungahlin, it would have put them level on points with Gunners and Olympic, as they look to sort of make that jump towards the top 4, but it's another result that holds them back. And like I mentioned before, Tuggeranong, what a goal that was. Outside the box, just absolutely put his foot through it and found the back of the net. And so it was definitely one of the best goals you'll see all season for sure. He was a fair distance out, but he managed to get a good connection on the ball and put it in the back of the net. So kudos to him because that was a great goal.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And it's a sort of goal that you need when you're chasing a game and, chances are few and far between. You're maybe struggling to break a team down and you're really just relying on someone to pull the sort of the rabbit out of the hat, as they say, just to provide a bit of, spark or individual brilliance from somewhere. And that's what Tuggeranong was able to do and make it 1-1 with 20 minutes to go, but neither side could really push on and obviously get the 3 points as they shared the points. Gunners still remain fourth in the table after this result, but the key thing to note is, Matt, and we touched on it last week, is that they have the game in hand, where they can overtake West Canberra, who lost, but we'll get into that soon as well with the other matches we'll talk about. But a victory in that game in hand for Gunners would put them ahead of West Canberra, seeing that West Canberra is only ahead by 2 points, but obviously they've played one more game than Gungahlin. But it would have been good for Gunners to obviously get the 3 points. It would have changed that narrative a little bit.
Yeah, look, it would have changed both narratives a little bit. This was definitely a stronger Belconnen performance than their form would suggest anyway. They still haven't gotten a victory since that round 5 matchup against Canberra, Croatia. I know I keep saying it, but unfortunately, that's the way things are at the moment for Belconnen United. But like you said, they'll be very disappointed they didn't get the win. I mean, at least with the draw, that means they're now 8 points off Tuggeranong United in 7th place. But like you mentioned, if Belco got the victory, they would have been above Monaro and they would have been solidly in 6th place with 16 points, just 1 point above Monaro. So they'll be disappointed not to get that. In terms of Gungahlin United, though, they're in the top 4. Well, for this week anyway, they're in the top 4 regardless whether they lose that match or not against Tigers FC, which there is also narrative for Tigers FC, like we'll mention if they win that catch-up match. But like you mentioned, what a goal from Gungahlin United. There was also a great goal from Gungahlin United in their 23s, actually. Andy Bernal posted that on his socials. I don't know if you saw that, but geez, what a piece of play that was. And we all know, but in terms of Gungahlin United, though, in terms of both teams, this is always a tough match. It was a 3-3 draw last time, less goals this time, but there's never a lot between these teams when they play each other. One could be top, one could be bottom, and it would still be a similar result. This is just always a match where they're both up for it. For Belconnen United, though, at least with the draw, like I said, 8 points off, and let's see where they go. But they need a victory soon to get themselves rolling.
Absolutely.
All right. Next up, we have Canberra, Croatia, with quite an emphatic loss against Canberra Olympic, 5-1. Wow. Michael Taneski scored for Canberra, Croatia in the 2nd minute. Ihegi Crawford with 2 goals, Chris Ray with 2 goals as well for Canberra Olympic. Like I mentioned, huge result for Canberra Olympic. I mean, they did concede in the first couple of minutes, and if the neutral watched this, they would have saw, all right, 1-0 Canberra Croatia. It's going to be a long day for Canberra Olympic, but Yoogali scored just before halftime. Not only did he put his side level, he also swung the momentum their way. And safe to say, it was all Canberra Olympic in that second half, Michael. They just troubled Canberra Croatia with their pace, caused them so many issues on the counter. They countered very quickly, and they countered with precision. It was a well-deserved victory from Canberra Olympic, and this also puts them tied in 4th place with Gungahlin United, but below on goal difference. Bad day at the office for Canberra Croatia, not only to lose by such a margin, but also to lose to your rivals, Canberra Olympic, by that margin. Safe to say they wouldn't have been happy with the result. But Canberra Croatia probably weren't expecting Canberra Olympic to have that sort of reaction, especially after scoring the first, a couple of minutes. We've seen that from Canberra Croatia, and they've been able to see those games out when they've scored really early over the last, sort of month or so. But I guess one of the biggest, not only is that scoreline troubling for Canberra Croatia, but what would be troubling for them is Tigers are only 1 point now off Canberra Croatia. So if Tigers get that victory in the catch-up match against Gunners, then they'll be above Canberra Croatia and in the lead for the minor premiership. So, 2 Warriors there from Canberra Croatia, but they'll be raring to go next week, I'm sure, to bounce back. But congratulations to Canberra Olympic. What a performance, and very well deserved. A lot of pace, great counters from Canberra Olympic. Any thoughts on this one, Michael, before we move on?
Yeah, I think everything you said, you pretty much hit the nail on the head, Matt. What a second half performance. And I know that no one was expecting this result, given how both teams form-wise were heading into this one. But I don't think anyone could have predicted Olympic going to Deakin Stadium and putting 5 past Canberra Croatia. I mean, it's a fantastic result for the away team, and it boasts well, obviously, for their top 4 chances, like you mentioned before. It was just a very off defensive performance from Canberra Croatia. And I mean, Canberra Olympic made Croatia pay with their pace, especially on the counter attack, like you mentioned. They just have so much talent going forward. Obviously, Yoogali, they had Rowan Jones in the midfield as well, causing havoc. So they just managed to make this Canberra Croatia seem so exposed and so open. But we haven't seen Canberra Croatia be opened up like this before in the back, Matt. I mean, they were just all over the place, and they just really managed to take advantage of that space that was afforded to them. But they obviously worked the ball up the pitch really well. They attacked with purpose. They're young, they're hungry. They play fantastically well when they soak up a bit of pressure, because they have those youngsters to be able to, go forward and cause absolute mayhem. So kudos to Canberra Olympic for that second half performance in particular. I mean, it was just absolutely astonishing, and that's going to give them a whole heap of confidence. But on the flip side of it, like you mentioned, this now gives Tigers the chance to finally cement themselves in first place if they do win that catch-up game against Gungahlin United. So it just wasn't a good day for Canberra Croatia in general to lose the game, and then now for Tigers FC to have that game in hand and give them the opportunity to leapfrog Canberra Croatia into first place. Next matchup, we had Tuggeranong United. They fell short yet again, this time to the Monaro Panthers, 3-1 to the Panthers. Richards opened the scoring for Tuggeranong United in the 14th minute. That was before a barrage in the second half from Monaro, Dominici, Calabria, and Woods scoring in the 96th minute there in injury time to really sort of just cap off the 3 points there for Monaro. And it's a big 3 points for them in the context of, all the teams that are vying for that top 4. The margin becomes shorter and shorter between each side, which is great to see from a competitive standpoint. And it was really important for Monaro to go there and just concentrate on getting the 3 points and nothing else. They really needed that win, and that's what they got. But it certainly didn't start the way that they wanted to, Matt. I mean, they fell behind after Richards found the back of the net inside the box. And that you could tell that gave Tuggeranong a lot of confidence. They played well in the first half. Monaro, couldn't really get it going, but then it really just opened up just before the halftime interval, where it looked like an off-ball incident involving Connor Nolan and Sam Rosbach, and then you could see he was gesturing to the referee that there was like an elbow being raised of some kind, and then the referee goes over and shows Nolan the red, and that just changed the complexion of the game entirely. Because in the second half, Monaro just came out and they really took advantage of having that man advantage, the 11-10. So, Dominici scores a chip over the keeper after Tim Boblis, on the halfway line gets the ball quickly for a throw in and just launches it, 30, 40 meters from what it looked like, all the way to Dominici, who chipped the ball over the keeper. And then, Calabria got on the score sheet, and then it looked like for the third goal, it looked like obviously Tuggeranong had put all their eggs in one basket trying to get the one draw. They had Wiseman up for the corner, headed clear fantastically well by, I think, Jenkins it was, because then Monaro just hit on the counter. They play the ball forward to Woods, who just goes after the ball just before it obviously goes out of play. But he's got real speed, Woods, and he just managed to get the ball in the nick of time to just stick it in and confirm victory. And you could see how much the third goal meant to Monaro. They all came around each other and they let out a big roar when they scored that third one, because, like I mentioned prior, it's huge in their context for the season. We talked about how they needed a win. Obviously, Tuggeranong United need a win a lot more, but in terms of Monaro's top four push and the difficult start they had to the year, this is the 3 points they very desperately needed, and it's what they ultimately got.
Yeah, look, Monaro will be very happy with that. Tuggeranong will be not only disappointed that they once again that they didn't get the victory. You mentioned they had the lead, the red card. It's safe to say probably the momentum was a tight game, but momentum was swinging Tuggeranong's way. So and this is Russ said it on commentary as well. This is the second match. This is only the second match that Tuggeranong have gone ahead first, and that was also against Monaro last time when they had that 2-2 draw. So I tried to keep an eye on all the matches as they were happening, and for what I saw, Tuggeranong looked really good in the first half. But like you mentioned, once that red card came, it only seemed like there was going to be one outcome. Monaro pounced and took a grip on that matchup, and nice little dink there over the top from Dominici. And like you mentioned, big win for them. Is it like 2 points now off the top four? Something like that for Monaro. So they're getting close to their objective. And unfortunately, the gap just, even though it was only by 1 point, it grew with Belco's draw, but the gap grows bigger for Tuggies. But if they got the victory, like they were in the lead and they didn't get the red card, then it would have only been 5 point. Five probably would have been less than 5 points. It would have only been 4 points the difference. So unfortunately for them, it wasn't meant to be, but it will come. Like with the Tuggies women's, like we're going to mention soon, that victory will come for Tuggies men's. All right, next up, we've got Tigers FC with a solid home victory over West Canberra Wanderers 1-0. New signing Nico Oida scoring for the Tigers. Vital win for the Tigers, as it puts them only 1 point off Canberra Croatia, like we mentioned in the Canberra Croatia matchup. Good, like I mentioned before, good to see new signing Nico Oida making the score sheet. We mentioned how good a signing he was last week on the show. We all know his quality, returning from MacArthur Bulls in the NPL New South Wales. Last year, let's not forget, both Frank Keisha and Russ Gibbs both said he was one of, if not the best player in NPL 1 in 2020. They said that on the pod last year. So, and in terms of Tigers, let's not forget, I think this is the first show, Michael, we've had since the FA Cup draw was announced. and they did pick up Apia Leichhardt. So I'll get your thoughts on that very quickly in the New South Wales draw zone of the FA Cup. But onto West Canberra. Look, a tough away trip to Cooma at Nigel. We all know the pitch isn't great. It's mentioned every show, but West Canberra, of course, coming off that terrific victory over Tuggies where they went down to 10 men. They put in a solid fighting performance here, though. And what's I think is impressive from West Canberra is every time it seems like they're in a little bit of a rut, and that's probably a tough word to use for a rut because they just didn't get a few results their way. But Ulysses Silva always finds a way to prepare the team, turn the tide, and there you go. They're back. They're back in it. They didn't get the victory here, but they put in a good performance against a team which is only 1 point off the top now, and West Canberra is still in third place, and their momentum will still be swinging from last week. So there's no shame in losing the Tigers like that. Michael, thoughts on this match quickly, and if you want to comment on the draw that Tigers got in the round of 32 of the FA Cup, playing Apia Leichhardt, the battle of the Tigers. Both Tigers teams facing.
That's right. I think firstly, in terms of the match, I think it was important to note how big Jacob Cole ended up providing to be for this Tigers team in getting the win. Obviously, West Canberra were awarded a penalty at the very end of that game, and you could see between the teams there was a lot of sort of trash talking going on before and then after the penalty was saved by Cole. So a little bit of animosity there between the teams, but I mean that's just standard sort of just
heat of the moment,
bickering back and forth during the game, but it's all settled at full time. But Jacob Cole showed his quality again as one of the best keepers in this competition and why he's been around for so long. A fantastic save from the spot by him, and obviously it proved to be such an important piece of play in the context of their season, because now they get the 3 points and they're only 1 point. Yeah, 1 point off Canberra, Croatia. So they can go into first place, like you mentioned, Matt. So that play itself at the very end of that contest proved to be huge in the context of Tigers season now to finally get themselves top of the ladder, because we've had Canberra, Croatia up leading the pack for quite a number of weeks now. So you can expect that to change, granted that Tigers do get the victory over Gungahlin in their catch-up match. And in the FFA Cup, it's going to be a cracking game. Apia Leichhardt, obviously a very great team. They're in Sydney. They have a great sort of historical background as well, playing in New South Wales there. So I believe it's going to be a great matchup. Obviously, we're always excited to see who Canberra, which team is going to represent Canberra and who they're going to end up playing against. And we always enjoy it, even though it's not an A-League side. There's always those clubs that have been around Australia for a very long time with a rich history, and Apia Leichhardt is exactly that. They've been around for a very long time. They have a great culture. You hear about it as well. So it'll be a fantastic game, I believe.
And I forgot to mention, they did draw them at home. So Tigers will play at home in Canberra. I'm assuming it's going to be Deakin Stadium. I could be wrong there, but
I think it will be at Deakin Stadium.
What I'm intrigued to see is what's going to happen. I know it's going to be next month, but what's going to happen in terms, because they just announced the lockdown is going to stay in Sydney. So they're going to be able to travel here. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that regard. I'm assuming they're going to wait till the last moment possible, probably in the end of the month if possible. So let's wait and see what happens in that one. But let's hope the match goes underway, because both the Tigers facing each other, like you mentioned, historical. The club Apia is, and Tigers are in good form at the moment, and they've got a stacked team. So let's see what happens. And I'm sure I'm sure Tigers will do Canberra proud. All right, Michael, let's get into the predictions for round 14. Belconnen United, West Canberra Wanderers, Saturday, July 17th, 3 p.m. at McKellar Park. I'm going to say I think this will be closer than people think, but I'm going to say West Canberra. It just seems like their momentum is starting to sway again in their way. They had a good performance against Tigers. And yeah, I just think they have more momentum heading into this one than Belconnen. So solely on that, I'm going to say West Canberra. You, Michael?
I mean, just for the sake of being different, I'm going to go for a Belconnen United win. It's been a while since they've picked up a victory, like we've mentioned, Matt. They put in a decent performance against a good team in Gungahlin. They've got great attacking talent. They just need to be able to find a way to sort of merge that all together and turn that into victories at this moment of time, especially if they want to consider themselves a top 4 contender. And there's no better place to do that than being on your home soil at McKellar Park. So this could prove to be a very big game in Belconnen's season. So I think that the occasion alone will hopefully see them prevail.
It'll certainly be a close matchup, like I mentioned there. This will be one to watch 100%. Then next up, we've got Monaro, as Russ likes to dub, the Battle of the Big Cats replay of the FA Cup qualifying final. Monaro Panthers versus Tigers FC, Saturday, July 17th, 5:30 p.m. at Riverside Stadium. This is going to be just as feisty, just as close as that final. I'm going to say Tigers, but there's not going to be a lot in this one. It's not going to be the sort of score line that we saw in that final. Yeah, I just think Tigers just have that extra bit of quality, but I wouldn't be surprised if Monaro can pull something off here. But I'm going to stick with my gut instinct to go Tigers. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there, Matt. I'm going to go for a Tigers win. Although Monaro managed to get that important victory against Tuggeranong United, I expect, there's not a team in form like Tigers right now. And I expect them to carry that over into Riverside Stadium.
Next up, we've got Canberra, Croatia, Gungahlin United, Sunday, July 18th, 3 p.m. at Deakin Stadium. I was going to say a draw with this one here, considering how close it is usually between these two teams. But every time I say a draw, I always get it wrong. So I'm going to go with the Croatia victory here, only just. They're going to be raring to go after last week. I'll be shocked if they're not raring to go. But Gungahlin United, they proved in the matchup against Canberra, Croatia, it was a very close one. So I'm going to go with Croatia here, but this is another one that could swing anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I'm expecting a Canberra, Croatia bounce back, Matt. So I'm going to go with Canberra, Croatia in this one as well. I think the humiliation they endured in that match against Canberra, Croatia will really fire them up for this next game. So I'm going to go for Canberra, Croatia.
Next up, Tuggeranong United, Canberra Olympics, Sunday, July 18th, 3 p.m. at Canberra 201. Like after Canberra Olympics victory, I was going to say Canberra Olympic, but I'm going to go for the draw on this one based solely on the way the Tuggeranong United match played out. And these matches are always, I know I said this the last couple of matches, but the last Tuggeranong United Canberra Olympic match, I remember being very, very close. I think it was a draw, if I'm not mistaken. And it's at Canberra, hometown advantage. I just think I'm going to go to draw on this one. I think Tuggies United, the way it played out, they would have been like, geez, we were so close to getting that victory, that first victory. And they're going to pull out that fighting spirit and get a draw against a very in-form Canberra Olympic matchup. So maybe that's an upset, but if so, that's my upset of the round. How about you, Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Canberra Olympic in this one, Matt. They're riding an absolute high off that result against Canberra, Croatia. And I expect them to carry that form over into this game against the Tuggeranong team that's notably struggled all season long to get 3 points that they so desperately crave.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. NPLW here. As becoming a regular guest on the show, happy to have him back. Matty Moore, how's it going, mate?
Evening, gents. Yeah, good to be back. Thanks for having me. Look, I'm doing well. Euro's done, Copper's done. My sleep patterns will start to adjust back to normality, and hopefully the world will continue to be a happy place. So yeah, I'm doing great.
Look, that's great to hear. And I'm sure it certainly will be. Now, let's get straight into the action. Quite a few interesting results over the weekend. Let's start with the only Saturday match we had, though. Belconnen United 9, Tuggeranong United 1, Ewan Backhouse with 2 goals, Carnegie with a hat-trick, Bomford with a goal, Michaela Thornton with a goal, and Hewan with an own goal in the 87th minute. And for Tuggeranong United, Daisley scored their goal. Good bounce-back victory for Belconnen United after last week's defeat to Canberra, Croatia. Got quite a few goals on the board, which, like we mentioned, is good for their goal difference against Canberra, Croatia. Good to see fullback Leah Carnegie get a hat-trick, and they were actually her first goals of the season, so credit to her. Pick of the bunch, in my opinion, was Talia Backhouse's second goal, which was a cracking shot from the edge of the box that went over the keeper. Another hard-fought performance by Tuggies. Once again, they were up against it, considering their keeper wasn't their regular keeper. It was an outfield player. Like I mentioned, it's hard to back up for Tuggeranong, especially after that heartbreaking loss last week to West Canberra when they were so close to getting that victory, and they were probably, and they had the performance to back it up, especially last week. So it's always hard to bounce back, and especially, having to be up against it with your regular keeper not being there. So, Matty, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, it was a bit of a perfect storm, unfortunately, for Tuggies. They had 2 epic weeks and the heartbreak of last week, plus, not having Sophie Rolfe available this week, plus a Belconnen team out to make amends and be pretty, well, let's be honest, brutal.
I forgot to mention that Belconnen were going to be a steam train today always. So. Yeah,
and you'd imagine they were fired up and ready to go because they would have been highly disappointed last week. And it was probably a little bit of it's probably 2 steps forward, 1 step back for Tuggeranong in this aspect this week. I think it doesn't necessarily take away from what they've done in the last few weeks, but any team that doesn't have their keeper is going to struggle. It's as simple as that. But Belconnen looked slick, and they certainly piled on the goals. You're right about Backhouse. That second goal was a cracker, and that's something that they've probably been lacking the last couple of weeks from Backhouse in particular. She's missed quite a few headed opportunities from set pieces, and Carnegie, one of those players that's been sort of a bit of a yo-yo first grade player for the last few years, and she's really established herself there. And for her to pick up a hat trick is key. I think the fact that Belconnen didn't have to rely on Michaela Thornton as much this week would be a pleasing sign for them, because the theme at the moment has been, if you take away Thornton, you take away Belconnen. So it's really important for Belconnen in this next little period to ensure that their patterns of play are working, but also that it's less reliant on Thornton. And the lack of turnovers was really evident from Belconnen on Saturday. They were a turnover machine last week. And this week they managed to treat the ball with a bit more care and a bit more possession, and that seems to have set them up nicely. And you would think for them, everything now is about, one, before they meet Canberra, Croatia again, is racking up the goals to get that goal difference, as you mentioned, Matt, but also putting those plans into place as to how they're going to beat Canberra, Croatia. And I think that should be their focus for the next little bit, is however they're going to beat Canberra, Croatia, that's how they have to go out and beat everybody else at the moment while racking up the goals at the same time. And there'll be a little bit of nervousness there around the amount of players sitting on yellow cards as well for them. So that's something we'll have to watch, or tactically get a yellow card here or there before the final series creeps up on them. But overall, solid performance from Belconnen and Tuggeranong. I think the emotion of the last 2 weeks, you sort of look at that and you cop it on the chin and you kind of throw it away and start again, because they have made massive progress in the last few weeks. And Paolo in particular needs to be really commended for the work he's done in that space.
Yeah, and like we've said on the last couple of weeks, we're not just saying it because like we pity Tuggeranong or anything like that. We genuinely believe it's gonna come. I've been impressed by their performances, like especially against the West Canberra one. It is gonna come. So it's a shame for them, but they keep moving forward. And I think, if anything, do you think this will quickly, Matty, do you think this will make them stronger? Do you think this will toughen the character the last couple of weeks, considering they've played really well, but they just haven't had that luck?
I think for them, what it kind of does is it sort of solidifies where they're at from a competitive point of view. Okay, so maybe Belconnen and Canberra, Croatia is a bridge too far for them at the moment. But what they did the week before against West Canberra Wanderers means that they can probably compete with the rest of the competition. So if you Paolo Romero and the team, all right, yep, they're the top two, and maybe we're not there yet, but we've proven in the last couple of weeks that we can match it with the rest. So let's build off that and run and see what kind of chaos we can make at the back end of the year for other teams, because they've certainly in a great position to just blow the whole competition up, given the final round that's coming up.
Yeah, and quickly a note on that goal difference. Belconnen United are still 9 points behind. 9 points behind Canberra, Croatia on goal difference. And I didn't mean to say points, but you know what I mean. They're 9 behind on goal difference. I should have said. All right, Michael, what's our next matchup?
Yeah, so our next matchup was a fantastic win for West Canberra Wanderers again, up against Gungahlin United, getting the 2-1 victory. Chavera grabbing a double in the first half before Gungahlin United pegged one back in the second period through Brown in the 75th minute. Obviously, like I mentioned just there, boys, another win for West Canberra Wanderers. They continue their scintillating form this season. It's their 4th win in a row, so massive congratulations to West Canberra, who are in a great bit of form and the best form that they've displayed all season. And it also boosts them into 3rd place in the table as well, which I think is important to note. 3 points ahead of Olympic and 4 points ahead of Gungahlin and Canberra United Academy. There was a disallowed goal for Michelle Heyman, which is unfortunate for the Gunners. But Brown scored, obviously, to get the comeback sort of going in the last 15 minutes to make it, a little bit nervy and uneasy for West Canberra. But, West Canberra, they managed to stay headstrong and see the game out. And that's what they've been able to do over the last, 4 games. And it's why they're in such great form at the moment. They're proving to be a very difficult side to break down and beat. So it's another 3 points for them. They're in the top 3. Even though they're not quite at the, points in terms of Canberra, Croatia and Belconnen United, they should solely focus on how well they've managed to do over the last month in terms of what they've been able to do on the football pitch. So congrats to them. Matty, what did you make of this one? Because it's another W for West Canberra Wanderers, but it's Gungahlin United suffer yet another loss in a game where they're up against high quality opposition and they've managed to come up short.
Yeah, look, I tell you what, boys, did not see this coming this week, and the tale of these two clubs at the moment is kind of the opposite of what I would have expected. I would have thought Gungahlin would be sitting in 3rd and flying high, and the addition of Heyman would be really pushing them towards that top 2. And West Canberra, with the upheaval that they've had in the last sort of month or so, I thought that might be the catalyst for them to drop away. But that group is obviously really tight, and they've continued to drive and accelerate on the back of a really strong first part of the season. And full credit to that playing group for getting the victory here. They have been really hard to break down, and Gungahlin, for all the possession that they had yesterday, they really struggled to make as many openings as you would expect from a roster with that sort of talent, and they really didn't quite execute. And it's been a little bit of a theme for them, probably the last 3 or 4 weeks, where the patterns of play have been a little bit predictable, and the smaller grounds for them, like West Canberra, they're a nightmare at Melrose. They just play that tiny pitch so well, and it feeds into their defensive structure perfectly. And then they're able to release people like Alex McKenzie to drive their counter attacks and get the ball down the other end. I mean, she was key for both goals, even though she didn't score them. And the addition of Tara Cannon can only help them there as well in terms of a distribution and being able to turn teams around. But one of those, it's almost like a bit of a Mourinho you sit back and you let the other team go, and then you punch them in the mouth as quick as you can going the other way. And full credit to them, they executed it really, really well. And the mental strength and comprehension to be able to do that for that length of time, and also not lose their nerve when Brown got that goal in the 75th minute. That could have been the catalyst to bring it all undone. But I guess we're seeing this week and last week against Tuggeranong as well that there's a bit of mental strength in that unit. And I'll be really interested to see what happens with them as they go through and play your Belconnens and your Canberra Croatias as they come up, just to get a really good indication of how difficult it's going to be and what sort of problems that they can cause in finals. Because at the moment they're as close to a shoo-in for third as anybody. And on the other side, if you're Gungahlin, you're starting to pull your hair out a little bit, which I don't recommend because Diego's got a good head of hair. So he'll be scratching him and Alan Merrin there. He'll be trying to work it out. And there's some key personnel that just seems slightly off, and there's something to do with that connection. And I think the last time I was on, we spoke about how the rotation that we've seen from Gungahlin for the last 2 or 3 years, where we'd have players filling in at, starting at a centre forward and ending up in a holding midfield role, and just that natural rotation's not there anymore. And whether that's by design or circumstance, I'm not too sure. But the predictability in the efforts going forward, but also the concern through the central defensive areas for them is starting to become a real issue. And to be brutally honest, it'd be a surprise for me now if they crack the top 4 before the end of the year. It really would, the way that they're going at the moment, and that's not something I thought I'd be saying.
Even that is sort of surprising to hear, and I think it's sort of really good that you mentioned, because it's something that I was just thinking about as you were talking, Matty, about this Gungahlin United outfit. The last 2 to 3 years, they've had like a real free-flowing sort of presence about them in terms of how they knock the ball around the pitch, multiple players playing in different positions, and they had this identity that they're a team that can hold the ball, keep possession, and they've got great talent everywhere. But it seems as though this season they just haven't been able to, put the pieces together. And we were all highly, we all put the Michelle Heyman move at such a high standard because obviously she's a quality player. But I think maybe there were thoughts around, the problems that they were going through, before that announcement, that this signing was just going to sort of pepper over some cracks, but it really hasn't proved to be the case. So their top 4 status really is in jeopardy, like you mentioned, and there's not that many games left where they can say, oh, well, we didn't win this one, but we'll have next week and we can get 3 points back. I mean, Matt, what do you reckon in terms of where Gungahlin are at the moment? Because it seems that the sole signing of Michelle Heyman, whilst it's great for them in the attacking sense, and you've got a goal scorer there, they just haven't been able to gel as well as we thought they would this season.
Yeah, look, and like I'm sure you mentioned, it was they're 3 points off the top 4 now, so they're not that far off. But I think Matty mostly touched it on the head when it comes to Gungahlin United. I guess just the question I would ask back to you guys before we move on is it just a matter of the competition being stronger compared to last season in terms of Gungahlin United? Yeah, that's my counter question, I guess.
Yeah, good counter. I think, look, there's definitely evidence to suggest that the competition's stronger, and that the coaching that's been put in through the likes of West Canberra and Canberra Olympic in particular, who were in and around about last year. I think they made top 4. It's been far more competitive, but there is something missing from Gungahlin. And I think when the Michelle Heyman announcement came, and I was one of the first ones who was like, oh, that's it, they're running through the grand final. And when I sit here and I think about it now, I think I put Michelle Heyman in the team that I saw from Gungahlin for the last 2 years. And I didn't think about Michelle Heyman going into this group. And it didn't have to be Michelle Heyman, right? Like Could have been, any Matilda's quality player. And I think you're right, Michael. We sort of thought Michelle would come in, and it's one of two things. She'd come in and fix all the problems, or people were like me and they inserted Michelle Heyman into the Gungahlin that they knew, not the Gungahlin that we're currently seeing. And the fact of the matter is the defensive structures aren't what they were. Their ball rotation isn't the same thing, and they're not asking the same questions. And yeah, they're only 3 points off. Yep, you're 100% right. So it's not a lost cause, but we keep waiting for them to fire and to trigger. And every time we see a little bit of something and we go, okay, they're getting closer. I think back to the game we did at the AIS, Matt, where, they came so close to pinching a point, almost winning. And then Michaela Thornton, does her thing. And we're like, well, that's got to be it. And we keep saying that's got to be it. And we're not in a long season anymore. We're in a sprint to the end of the season. And they're, so Mike said, they're running out of time. And I'm not sure that I've got the faith for them to take the points off the people around them to sneak in at the moment.
All right. And our next matchup is Canberra Croatia 8, Wagga City Wanderers 0, Palombi 5 goals, Sharon Chow with a goal, Berkeley with a goal, Fogarty with a goal. Dominating performance from Canberra Croatia away from home against Wagga. Let's not forget, this was a matchup that in the Riverina, Canberra Croatia found difficult last year when they travelled there. This season, though, safe to say that the reigning champions are on another level than what they were last year. 5-star performance from Brittany Palombi with those 5 goals. What more is there left to say about that? Matty, not the best day at the office for Wagga City Wanderers, but like I mentioned, to be fair, Canberra Croatia, bit of a steam train at the moment, especially with what they did against Belconnen United last week. What did you think about this one?
Well, the big red machine just keeps on turning, doesn't it? Like, it's a bit of a beast at the moment. And you're right. After what was probably their best performance of the year last week, they've carried it over. They've carried it over here, and it's almost like Britt Palombi was just kind of toying with everybody in the goal scorers race and decided she'd had enough and was going to open up a big fat gap there. So look, they'll be stoked with that because they did have issues last year when they went down there. It was tight, and Wagga have been getting better and better, and we know they're incorporating some new players. But the fact that Canberra Croatia were able to turn it on and give a rest to some players as well, like Fensom came off at halftime, Fogarty came off and Gill came off at sort of 65, 77 minute mark. So they're not running them into the ground either. And, you get a bit of, when was the last time Alice Churchill started on the bench in her 200 games? Like they're able to rotate through there. And, it's really interesting. And Nick Brosnich seems like he's got the team on the right trajectory, and you hope for his sake that they're not peaking a little too early. But they certainly look like that the form's there, and rough day for Wagga City, but as we saw with Tuggeranong United as well, there's a slightly different level with those top two to the others, and I still think that they've got some good football to come from them as well. But yeah, the key thing for Nick Brosnich would, if you're Belconnen, hey, you go away and you rack up 8 goals trying to close the goal difference, and Canberra Croatia walk out and smack 8 of their own. So you've made no indent whatsoever. So that's got to be frustrating from their point of view as well.
Last matchup was Canberra United Academy getting a big win against Canberra Olympic, 3 goals to 2. We had Grove, Hunt, and Perry all score in the first half for Canberra United Academy. It looked cruisy, but then Olympic obviously bit back with 2 goals of their own in the second half. With Vanderbroek and Sykes getting on the score sheet within 6 minutes of each other in the second half there to really post some concern, but Canberra United Academy managed to hold on. The match started similar to the game against Canberra Croatia, where they came out the blocks sort of raring to go, and they scored 3 goals. Coincidentally, that is also the last time CUA have won a match before this outing. They took advantage of some keeper mistakes, but they did a lot of work to sort of press the Olympic defense in those positions. And, this win puts them back into the top 4 in 4th above Olympic. So it was really an important game in the story surrounding the top 4. And how we just talked about Gungahlin United before. This match right here, pivotal to the top 4 race, and it was Canberra United Academy who obviously came out on top. Olympic will be disappointed that they were down 3-0 in the first half because of the second half performance that they managed to put forward to get themselves right back into the game. They fought hard in that second half, and they nearly got level pegging as well, but unfortunately for Nicole Begg's team, it just wasn't enough, and it kicked them out of the top 4, and Canberra United Academy went into the top 4. So not a good week for Canberra Olympic, but obviously they're still right there. You can't write them off. They've had a bit of a roller coaster season in terms of results. They've put forward some great displays, but also not so great displays as well. But you can definitely expect them to keep fighting to secure a top 4 position. Matty, what did you make of this result? Because like I mentioned, it was, a massive game in terms of teams that are vying to get a top 4 position. And it's a massive win for the academy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And became so much more vital following the West Canberra victory as well, that I think they would have ended up 4 points out of the 4. And that's a long way back for those kids. But geez, this was a weird game. The academy, you're right, came out firing. It looked like Olympic had been on the Barty party following Wimbledon the night before. They were not there in the first half. And I'd never seen Olympic like that before. And for a team that's really started to embrace the personality of their coach in Nicole Begg, who was always 100% and you give everything all the time, that was really surprising. And the academy will be happy in particular that Anna Hunt got on the score sheet. She hadn't scored for a month before then. She'd gone missing a little bit, though did appear to pick up a bit of a wrist injury, which you hope's not too serious. But Sasha Grove in the middle of that first half really drove the academy around. Like her energy and her ability to press high up the park while also covering was vital. And you mentioned the unfortunate errors from Haynes there at the back, and it's twofold there. Like, and Jeremy and I were talking about it off air yesterday, that that's the hazards of being a keeper. A striker makes 2 mistakes and everybody forgets about it, and the keeper makes 2 and the world comes to an end. But there was a couple of key issues where the ball was turned over in really bad areas. I think in particular the second goal where the Olympic midfielder just almost essentially played it to nobody, and that put them under immense pressure. And as much as people might point the finger at poor Haynes, there was also no Olympic defenders running in and chasing that to make sure that if anything was spilt, they were in a position to clear it. And things that we've spoken about with Gungahlin before. So if you're not in the vicinity to help the keeper out, then there's only going to be one outcome. And she got subbed, and Summers came in and did a fine job. Had her own shaky moments at the same time, but it looked like we were in for another 6 or 7 nil kind of scoreline. And I don't know what Nicole Begg did at halftime, but I hope she can remember, and she does it doesn't hear a pre-match talk next week, because this was a different team. And part of that may have been that Sasha Grove moved higher up the park, so there wasn't quite as much dynamic sort of movement through the middle. But if anybody ever needed any more evidence on how dominating Ash Sykes can be, they just need to go back and watch that half of football, because within the first 2 minutes, she had created at least one quality opportunity that unfortunately Vanderbrush had overcommitted, so she wasn't there for the cutback. And those are the sort of, and there was another one later on in the second half, but they're the sort of things that really came back to haunt them, that they gave somebody a 3-0 head start and they almost ran them down. And you could argue maybe they should have. But if you're going to give anyone a 3-0 head start, you're asking a lot of everyone. And it looks like Olympics depth's going to be tested a little bit now too. We had Jordan Awida come off. We had Rachel Hardwick come off. We had Tiana Miro was carrying some strapping in there, and I'm not sure how long the likes of Garriock being in isolation lasts for, but that'll test them a little bit, though they will be thrilled that Ella Hemmings came back. And, she came on with about 15 minutes to go and did exactly what you needed to do, really settled everything down and made no mistakes. And she's a quality little kid. But, if you're Olympic, you're a little bit nervous because you've missed an opportunity to put a gap between yourself, Gungahlin and CUA, and they really would have been looking to do that. So 3 points lost there keeps them in the dogfight. And although I've said I don't think Gungahlin will do it, it keeps it ajar for them as well. And CUA, do they drive on from here, given they've had a pretty rough month? Be interesting to see what the kids do
in round 14. But first, let's start with the first matchup of the round, the only Saturday matchup. We've got West Canberra Wanderers against Belconnen United, Saturday, July 17th, 12:45 at Melrose Synthetic. Interesting thing about this one is West Canberra Wanderers is also the only team to have taken points off Belconnen United that aren't Canberra, Croatia. So there is some momentum going West Canberra Wanderers' way in terms of the head-to-head this season. This is going to be a very close one. I'm going to say Belco, but if West Canberra can get another result here, like you mentioned, they should be a shoo-in for the top 4 if they can keep that up. Michael?
I'm going to go for a West Canberra Wanderers win, actually. I think it's important to recognise the current vein of form that they're in at this moment in time. 4 wins on the bounce. And, I mean, you can't ask for much more than that heading into a big game against a perennial contender in Belconnen United. They're playing with confidence. They're picking up results. They're getting that feeling of what it is to, play in 90 minutes, grind out a game and get the 3 points, which is the most important aspect of the match. So on those aspects alone, I'm going to go for a West Canberra Wanderers win here.
Matty?
I think it'll be a draw, and I know West Canberra came super close to knocking him off at McKellar, but I think the Melrose synthetic pitch plays, the size of that plays right into West Canberra's hands. And although Belconnen racked up a heap of goals this week, I can't see him easily breaking that defence down, and whether they can handle the transition the other way. If Cannon can release, people like Mackenzie early, that's going to be a real danger spot. So, 1-1 draw for me.
And there we go. We all had a different pick. Good way to start the predictions this week. Canberra Olympic against Tuggeranong United next up, Sunday, July 18th, 2:15 p.m. at O'Connor enclosed. This is a tough one because I do think it's going to happen soon for Tuggeranong United. Unfortunately for them, they're coming out. I know there is a few injuries for Olympic, but Ash Sykes, as we all know, when she has, gone a couple of matches where she hasn't scored more than one, she usually is raring to go. So I'm going to say Olympic victory, but it's not going to be by a massive margin like people think. Michael?
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, Matt. I'm going for a Canberra Olympic win. They'll take a lot out of that second half performance against the CUA. And like Matty mentioned before about, Nicole Begg needing to use that halftime team talk for the start of this game will definitely be important. And it's something that they need to do. They can't afford to obviously just play bad one half and play good the next. That's not how you play, and it's not how you get results. So I'm expecting them to bounce back and put in a much more complete performance.
Matty?
Yeah, I think it'll be an Olympic win. I think it'll be tight as well. It's only going to be sort of, maybe 2-0 or 3-1 or something. I just think the importance of the match to Olympic and what it means to their season going forward just means that they'll be a bit more switched on and ready to go. And, if Courtney Hales is back next week as well, her and Cook in the central defence will open things up. And, I'm just not sure Condon and Coates can handle Sykes for for that whole 90-minute period. So yeah, Olympic for me.
Next up, Gungahlin United, Canberra, Croatia, Sunday, July 18th, 3 p.m. at Gungahlin in close. It's usually always a pretty good matchup. It's hard to not see a Canberra, Croatia victory at the moment. They're just an absolute steam bullet train at the moment. So I'm going to go with Canberra, Croatia. Michael?
Yeah, I'm going to go for Canberra, Croatia as well. But I would like to just mention that what a game this could be for Gungahlin United if they were to just, turn things around at this point. Given the context of their season so far, what we've mentioned, how they've sort of struggled in different areas, how they're struggling to impose themselves in games, not exactly sort of figuring out exactly, their style and, really sort of honing down on a style of play. I mean, if they were to come out at home against a Canberra Croatia team, with the likes of a Michelle Heyman, with your home crowd behind you to really sort of get you with important 3 points, to get you back in that top 4 conversation. Because I guarantee you, if Gungahlin United were to win this game, we'd be switching all that we just mentioned before. So I do think Canberra Croatia will get a win, but I just want to stress the importance of how Gungahlin need to approach this game, because for them it could be like an early final, to be honest, if they look at it in that sense of where they're at the table. And if they, lose this weekend, and the likes of Canberra Olympic win, and even West Canberra Wanderers get a result against Belconnen, it just puts them further behind. There's a lot of pressure on Gungahlin, so we could see them thrive or crumble in that environment. But I'm going to go for Canberra, Croatia, but it should be a really good game.
Matty?
Yeah, you make a really good point, Michael. Like if they can pull a victory out here, that catalyst, that turning point that we've been waiting for, you can't get a bigger one than that against, the best team by a long way in the competition. And yeah, and you mentioned if they don't, that gap potentially gets big, and yeah, that make and break aspect is probably never more true than it is for this match here. And unfortunately for my Gungahlin friends, I think it's break for them. I can't see how they break down Canberra Croatia effectively to get enough goals, because I can't see Canberra Croatia not scoring. But I just can't see Gungahlin getting enough goals. Like they're going to need, I think they'll need 3 to win, and I just not sure how they create those 3 goals at the moment. And it hurts me to say, because there's some quality people involved in that setup. But yeah, unfortunately, I think it's Canberra Croatia for me as well.
All right, and last up, we've got Canberra United Academy, Wagga City Wanderers, Sunday, July 18th, 3 p.m. at Hawker Football Centre. We asked the question, is this going to be the sort of catalyst for Canberra United Academy moving forward after sort of a bust sort of month for them? And then, of course, them getting a big victory over Canberra Olympic. I'm going to say a Canberra United Academy victory, and let's see if this is the catalyst for them. Michael?
Yeah, I agree, Matt. I'm going to go for a Canberra United Academy win. On the back of that fantastic win against Canberra Olympic, this is a really good chance for Canberra United Academy to cement themselves as the top 4 side in this league. And it's a chance for them to build some much needed momentum, which they haven't really been able to gain a whole lot of throughout this season. So I'm going to go for a Canberra United Academy win.
Matty?
Yeah, I'm the same. It's the academy for me. They solidify their top 4 spot, and get back-to-back wins, and we've got a lot of young girls who are will be out to impress with national championship selection coming up as well. So they'll be really trying to make their point to Vicky and ensure that they don't forget, or she doesn't forget to pick them. So yeah, Canberra United Academy for me. But yeah, it should be. I don't think it'll be quite the event it was for Wagga City against Canberra Croatia. I think it's probably going to be a little bit tighter than that.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Matty. Pleasure having you on as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Matty.
Thanks for having me, gents. Love it.
All right, we're back with NPL2 action over this past weekend. We'll kick things off with White Eagles getting an important away victory in this one, Matt. 3-1 against Wagga City Wanderers. We had Suleiman get on the score sheet for Wagga City. Ayul scored a double for White Eagles, and McCarthy also on the score sheet for White Eagles. A great win on the road for the away team. We've talked about sort of their struggles over recent times, especially maybe the last sort of month in terms of them getting results. It's a big result for them to come away with Wagga with 3 points. It's always, and we always harp on the fact that it's always hard to go to Riverina and, to get yourself ready for, it really is. And it's hard to sort of get yourself up and go do the travel and play a game of football and get 3 points. But that's what Eagles managed to do. And they put in a great performance. Apparently they pressed quite a lot and created a boatload of chances from that. And it's what they took advantage of as well. You had Ayul score a neat chip over the keeper to seal the win. And there's an update on Ben Townsley, probably 4 to 6 weeks away from reaching full match fitness, which means it's obviously great news that it's not a major tear or anything like that. On the flip side of things, it's a tough loss for Wagga, considering they won the previous fixture in the last round of the games. In this round of games, this young team is still progressing. You'll see their talent, shine more come the end of the season. But I mean, overall, it's a great win for White Eagles, who have been struggling. But this will boast well as they look to, get top 4 status.
Yeah, look, it certainly is a really good result. You mentioned how White Eagles needed this result. You mentioned how they're in the top 4 now. Also got a match in hand, which really helps them also. And I think it's important for them just to get that sort of consistency. They haven't had that since the return of Graham Plath, partially due to their draw, partially due to the just the way the performance has been for them at the moment. So let's see if this can be a catalyst for them moving forward in terms of getting that consistency, getting the matches, getting the wins here and there. And let's not forget, though, that their match in hand is against Queanbeyan City. And there could be some pressure on Queanbeyan City, like we're going to mention later on with the result that they got against O'Connor Knights. So let's wait and see in that regard. Look, in terms of Wagga, they're going to fancy their chances against the Brindis, and the Brindis are going to fancy their chances against Wagga. So let's wait and see what happens there. Wagga did get a win against the Brindis, though, in the last one, like we're going to mention very soon. So it's not all make or break for Wagga City Wanderers, but very good win for the White Eagles. Next up, we have ANU 2, Western Molonglo 1, Kagler and Carters with the goals, and Record with another goal for Western Molonglo. All right, it was a tough victory for ANU, though. I mean, in terms of the scoreline, Western made it very hard for them to break down. They had an absolute resolute defense. In typical ANU fashion, they dominated the majority of the possession, but they were patient. They picked their moments, and they were able to pick the holes when they could find the spaces and the lapses in Western defense. ANU's first goal came from a ball over the top. Western thought it was offside, though, but the linesman said that the ball was onside by at least half a meter. And the second ANU goal came from a header. So once again, a very important victory for ANU since O'Connor got a victory. We harp on that every week, Michael, but considering how close this race is between those two at the moment, and with Queanbeyan City's loss, unless they can get the victory against White Eagles in the backup, and either of these top 2 teams falter, it seems like it is going to be between those two at the moment. So it is very big. Very good defensive performance, though, from Western. They put in the game plan. Their game plan nearly paid off. Of course, narrowly losing to the top of the table side. Angus Record, like we mentioned, scored a goal. It was a terrific volley as well. Hopefully I can get some footage of that soon. And that adds to his 5-goal tally for the season. Do you have any thoughts on this one before we move on?
Oh, look, just simple and plain. It's another win for ANU. They just keep sort of marching forward, don't they, mate? They've just proving to be the perennial side in NPL2. Obviously, there is the O'Connor Knights as well. But, it just seems to be the constant narrative with ANU. They rock up to a game, they play and they win. So they can't ask for much more than that. And it's something that we should expect to see to the end of the season. But moving on, we had Brindabella Blues and Yoogali playing out a 0-0 draw. A little bit surprising 0-0 draws, Matt. I don't think we've come across too many this season, just even across the three competitions.
I don't think there has been one in NPL2. I could be wrong, but I don't.
I'm thinking, don't quote me on it, but I do think that this might be the first 0-0 draw
in NPL2. There definitely has been one in NPL. There definitely has been one in NPL1.
Yeah,
but
definitely in
NPL2. Well, keep talking, and I'll find that actually on me.
Okay, so it was a good draw for Brindabella. It puts them level on points with Western Molonglo in sixth. All their home matches will now be played at Melrose for the majority of the season, which is good for them. Well, obviously not great with the sort of synthetic field, but at the end of the day, it's a decent enough surface to play on. It's due to Ipen Park's pitch being destroyed due to the rain a couple of weeks ago, which is really unfortunate. But it was a heavy dose of rain that came through sort of the Canberra region. It was a strong defensive performance from the Brindis, and they had their moments of possession and chances on goal, but they weren't able to obviously find the back of the net. Yoogali now drop out of the top four by goal difference after White Eagles claimed that victory against Wagga that we just talked about prior. So not a great result for Yoogali, as it means that they're going to have to fight their way back into the top four. They came out in the beginning of the match and kept us, and they stayed defensively strong throughout the contest. They came out at the beginning of the match, looked good, created a few chances on goal. Their keeper made some key and fantastic saves, as did the Brindy keeper in the other end of the goal between the sticks. So even all around, even on the playing pitch and even in the scoreline at the end of the 90-minute conclusion.
And I looked it up. That was the first ever 0-0 scoreline in the NPL2 this season. Yeah, you mentioned pretty even game there. Yoogali will be a little disappointed because, of course, like you mentioned, White Eagles will go above them now. White Eagles still have that match in hand, but Yoogali have. I suggest check out my interview with Luke Santolin on Facebook. He talks about how his side have gotten used to the fact that they're going to have less numbers when they travel this season compared to they did last season. And they've sort of figured out the way that works best for them when they travel, because we've always talked about how they're strongest at home. So go have a check at that one. That should be interesting. But for Brindis, is this the catalyst? Is this the catalyst draw for them moving forward? And let's not forget, they did get that victory midweek in between that catch-up second half against Western Molonglo. So that's 4 points in the space, like 2 weeks, I think, for them now. So that's important for them as well. Heading into Wagga, like I said, both teams will fancy their chances for this victory. So in terms of the Brindis, it sucks that they can't get their home ground anymore. But if Capital Football don't deem it if they don't deem it a playable pitch, it's not a playable pitch. That's the rules. But for Brindis, it'll be interesting to see if this is the catalyst for them these last 2 weeks moving forward. All right, next up, we have safe to say, Michael, the big one. Yep. O'Connor Knights winning 2-0 over Queanbeyan City. Kresic and O'Rourke with the goals for O'Connor Knights. This one was on Bar TV Sport. Andy Bernal and Russ Gibbs were on this one. Very good crowd as well at High Street. It was pretty packed there. Unfortunately for Queanbeyan City, though, this was O'Connor's day. It was O'Connor's performance. Very impressive performance by O'Connor. They took the game by the scruff of the neck. Took two very well-worked goals. I definitely suggest you go back and watch those two goals on Bar TV. Great team goals. They were very solid defensively, like we've mentioned quite a few times. We're accustomed to seeing that from the Knights at the moment. There are a lot of great individual, there are a lot of great performances by a lot of players in the Knights, but shout out to their midfield, O'Rourke, Roberts, all those players in the midfield. They took the game by the scruff of the neck and they absolutely controlled the middle of the park, which you're not used to seeing whenever Queanbeyan City come up in a matchup, but it was O'Connor's day. Queanbeyan just didn't seem to click. Oh, and I forgot to mention O'Connor also did hit the woodwork twice, or they had to save goals twice as well in the first half. Queanbeyan, it just didn't seem like they clicked going forward. They just weren't able to find that transition from defense to attack, that final ball, whether it was a cross or the through ball, or they put a through ball and Shields would run onto it, but immediately the keeper would sweep it up, or the defender would get into sweep it up as well. Like I mentioned this last week, and I'm not trying to be tough on Queanbeyan, but Michael, will this victory for O'Connor Knights, will this put more pressure on Queanbeyan City? Because they now have gotten 4 losses, and both of those losses have come against the top 2. So they have the match in hand against White Eagles. They're currently 10 points behind. If they get the win, then it's 7 points, and then they might hope that either ANU or O'Connor Knights, one of them beat each other this weekend. Does it put a lot of pressure on, Queanbeyan City heading into the White Eagles matchup? 10 points, they wouldn't have predicted that at the start of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does put a bit of pressure on them, Matt, most definitely. I think it's a good point to raise that Queanbeyan's 4 losses this season have obviously come twice against ANU and twice against the O'Connor Knights, who happen to be the 2 top teams at the moment. So, I mean, based on that alone, that automatically tells us that they are just not at the level of ANU and O'Connor. And obviously saying that means they're not going to get promotion to the NPL1. They seem to be absolute goal scoring machines against other opposition in this league. We've talked about it numerous times, the attacking talent they have. They probably have one of the best attacking talents in terms of their squad in the NPL2, in terms of they're able to get 4 or 5 goals on their day whenever they please. But in these tougher games, they're really struggling to break teams down, and it's not the same on the defensive end. They can't, keep clean sheets and keep these good opposition teams out of, threatening their goal and getting shots, on target. It's a really telling time for Queanbeyan, because it seems as though they're all smooth sailing until they play O'Connor or ANU. That's where the barrier is at the moment. They're hurdling over the Yoogalis, the Waggas, the White Eagles, the Westons. But when it comes to ANU and O'Connor, it just seems to be just that slight bit of a too big of a hurdle at this moment in time. And evidence backs that up. They just haven't been able to turn up in those games. And I'm sure it's something that Gabby Wilk will be disappointed about, because, he's a big time coach. He's been around for a very long time, and he just can't get this squad over the line. And going on to the round 14 predictions, Matt, we've got Brindabella Blues up against Wagga City Wanderers. As we mentioned, it will be played at Melrose Synthetic, their new designated home ground, this Saturday, 17th July, 3 p.m. I'm going to go for the Brindies here, Matt, to get a win in their new home at Melrose Synthetic.
Yeah, look, I agree. It's going to be a close one. It usually is between these two sides. Like I said, they'll both fancy their chances. I just think the Brindies have that momentum heading in. They got the victory, the second half victory, and then which is all 3 points. They got the draw against Yoogali. Yeah, I think the Brindies will get the win, and if they get the win, they might be on a bit of a run, and they might finish the season like they felt like they should have started the season in terms of their performances.
Absolutely. Moving on to the second match. It's an absolute belter, Matt. It's the fixture of the round. O'Connor Knights versus ANU Saturday, July 17th, 3 p.m. at Gungahlin enclosed. Both teams, 11 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Both teams on 34 points. Both teams with the same goal difference of 22. I mean, you literally cannot separate them at this point. It's going to be an absolute cracker of a game. And, we could be potentially looking at our clear leaders in this competition after the conclusion of this match. This is really tough to call. I'm just going to say draw. I'm sitting on the fence. I cannot separate these teams.
Yeah, look, I said a draw last time and O'Connor ended up winning. Look, after what I saw on the weekend, I'm going to say O'Connor by 1 goal. I don't know what the score is, but it'll only be by 1 goal. It's tough to say, but like I said, what I saw from O'Connor on the weekend, I think they'll just have enough to beat ANU. Just. It's going to be so close. And yeah, like I mentioned, O'Connor did beat ANU in the reverse fixture. So for all I know, ANU could win this one. Then there could be a draw next time or whatever. But yeah, look, I'm just going to take a stab at it and say O'Connor due to their impressive victory over Queanbeyan.
Next up, we've got White Eagles up against Western Molonglo at Woden, Park enclosed this Saturday at 3 p.m. I'm going to go for a White Eagles win here. Now that they've got the confidence of getting themselves back into the top 4, I expect them to carry on that momentum. It'll be tough, though, against a Western team that put in a good defensive shift last week.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with the White Eagles one on this one. But Western Molonglo will get a lot of confidence out of that. They'll get a lot of confidence out of that performance that they put in against the top of the table, ANU. But yeah, I'll say White Eagles.
And lastly, we've got Yoogali up against Queanbeyan City at Solomad Stadium, Sunday, 18th of July at 2 p.m. This is going to be tough for Queanbeyan City. They really need to bounce back in a big way. And, considering the result, that they endured against the O'Connor Knights, it's hard to then go on a road trip to then sort of put that result behind you and come out and look to sort of rectify that. So, I mean, there's a lot on the line for them in terms of sort of keeping tabs on those top 2 teams. But I think first and foremost, they've got to make sure that they finish in the top 4. So I'm going to go for a Queanbeyan City win.
It's always, we've mentioned it before quite a few times on the show already. It's a very tough place to go, the Riverina. And Yoogali always play their best football on their home pitch, at least this season anyway. I'm going to go for a draw on this one. I just think the pressure is starting to mount on Queanbeyan City. And I'm going to go for a draw on this one. All right. That's us for NPL2 done. Really good show, Michael. Thank you very much. And any last words before we head off other than Italy are European champions?
Forza Italia.
Yep. That's a great way to end it, Michael. Any last words?
No, those were my last words. I think it's pretty much fitting for, the result of this morning. So enjoy it, Matt. I'd be soaking it all in.
Yeah.
And the World Cup's not even that far away. So, we've got another year and a half, and a year and a half. Oh,
a little less than a year and a half because it starts in November. A little less.
Yeah, a little less. Yeah. Regardless, very close. Time is going fast so quickly nowadays, man. Like it's literally gonna come like that. So I'm looking forward to it. But definitely enjoy the victory from this morning. I know I would be if I was, if I was Italian. Unfortunately, I'm not. My team got knocked down in the group stage, but still proud of North Macedonia. So as
you should be, and the great man Pandev as well. All right, like I mentioned before, Forza Italia, but Anyway, it's coming Rome, and enough about that. Enjoy the football this weekend in your local competition. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. And we'll see you next week.